Hey guys, came back here in the Battler workshop. Well, hands up all those guys who never quite get that project finished out. We get it working, but there's little things that we haven't finished off. You know, we're going to use a shifter instead of a handle, and it gets us by. Or we've got that loco that just doesn't quite have that fine scale finish on that clack valve, or that pipe work, that lubrication pipe work isn't quite where it needs to be. But we just live with it the way it is, and we never sort of get back to finishing it. So, yep, guilty as charged. I've certainly done that, and I've got lots of projects that are sort of like 90% there, and they're not quite finished off. So, I have promised myself with the powered slotting head, we're going to finish off that totally. So, the next few videos are going to show mounting up that a new digital indicator, so we can do the height adjust on the ram. Also, the oil manifold, where I couldn't quite get to that oiler, I was going to use another method, but we've decided to make up a manifold for that. Got to make the guard up for the belt, and we've also got to make up the lifting jig to be able to lift that in and out of the lathe fairly easily, rather than having to worry about slings. So I've promised myself I want to get this thing finished off, so another couple of videos I'm going to have to put you guys through to get it done, and then we can move on with some other projects. So, alright guys, I'll see you soon.
Alright guys, we're going to do something I don't think I've ever done before. It's an unboxing, and I think this is my digital dial indicator that I'm going to use to mount on the lathe slotter, and that's arrived today. I went and picked it up from the post office today. So I'll have a bit of a look at it, see what it looks like. Okay, well, I've got to use a manual. That's in every language under the sun, so I'm assuming up the front will be the English version. So that looks fairly detailed actually. Doesn't look too bad. And it comes in a really nice looking case. I wasn't expecting that, that's for sure. Alright, well, let's have a look at it. And I think I paid around about $30 for this, and I paid a little bit extra so that I could get the second backing on it. The different mounting arrangement on the back end. So let's have a look at it. So yeah, beautifully packaged. And there we are there. Oh, there we go, straight on. I'll tell you what, it feels good too. I'm very surprised for the money this cost me. So there's our inch conversions. I'm going to stop that anywhere and zero that out. This is going to be ideal for my application. So I've got a couple of different mounting options. I can come off the stem here, just with a split locking ring. We can mount that off, and as I said, I want to use a couple of the rare earth magnets to mount this on. Reason being is I want to be able to take it off so that it's not going to be in the way of any of the slinging gear when I lift it with the crane. So I can just pop it out of the way very quickly and then pop it on when I need it. But you know, for around $30, can't go wrong. Now this one has the 1 inch travel on it, or the 25.4mm travel on it. So just over an inch there. That does come back to zero. Yeah, so for $30, it's extremely well packaged. I can't complain about that. Anyway, I've got it in hand, so I can have a look at how I want to go about getting this mounted off. It's going to give me the best option. So inside here too, I believe that we've got, on one of these we have the battery access. There we go. Oh, that's handy. The battery actually comes out with the holder. That's neat. That makes it easy. Just clips back in, and we're back on again. I believe this is to be able to plug into a USB, so you can actually download data or put it on a screen or whatever you want to do there. Alright guys, well that's the latest little acquisition we've got. As I said, for $30. I don't think I can go wrong. Alright guys, we'll see you next time around when we've got a bit of an idea how we're going to mount this unit in place. Alright guys, we'll see you then. Alright guys, that was a bit interesting. I've never done an unboxing before, so that was my first. I don't think I mentioned, but I did buy this off eBay, and I look at who's got the best percentage feedback for the best price, and I got this through an Aussie seller. It cost me $33 with free postage. I could have got it a couple of dollars cheaper buying it through China, but you know, sometimes you're waiting 4, 5, 6 weeks for these things to arrive in the mail, so I think I got this in about 3 days. And the reason we need to mount this little unit into place is that if we're doing any side cutting on a keyway, so I've got a nominal 6mm bit in there, and I want to open that up to a 10mm keyway, I want to be able to very accurately measure 10mm either side of centre. Hence the reason for the little indicator. We can do that very accurately. As far as mounting this goes, I was looking at making up a small angle bracket off here, and then a couple of rare earth magnets that would then sit down on top of the bridge, and we can remove that fairly easily when we don't require it. But I think what we might do is make up a split block. So I'm going to make up a small block that will mount. We'll drill and tap and then screw and mount it onto the bridge plate here on the side. I'll then get a drill and ream, and then we'll ream that through 8mm. The stylus sheath outside here is 8mm in diameter. That can then sit inside there. We can then just nip that up with the cap screws, and that'll lock that into place. And we can just loosen those off and then remove that fairly easily. And what I'll probably do off the face of that little block, we'll set it up in the grinder. Take a couple of thou off so that it's got a little bit of a split line there, so it will give a bit of a clamping action. And the whole reason about wanting to be able to remove this fairly easily is that I want to be able to make up a spreader beam that we can use to lift this rig into place, and I don't want to damage the indicator. I don't want that in the way while we're doing that lift, so hence the reason for being able to remove that fairly easy. Once it's into place, we'll plonk that back in and then just nip that up, locked it into place. We also need to come up with a foot that can work off the bottom of the stylus to give the indication that we want, and I'll make that slotted so that we can work that up and down with the ramp position as well. So that's the plan for today. So we'll head over to the mill. I'll get a bit of stock and we'll start making up this little split block. We'll get this bridge piece off, and then we'll bolt it up and then do our drilling and reaming and go from there. Alright guys, we'll see you in a tick. Alright guys, this is a bit of stock I'm going to make that little bridge clamp up out of. It's the edge off, rolled edge off a bit of thick flat. So I'll get that into the bandsaw, and we'll cut that down roughly to size. It's going to be, I think finished size is a 14mm by 8mm. So we'll get set up in the bandsaw, and we'll get that sorted out. Alright guys, so we've cut this up using the bandsaw, and I'll tell you what, that little bandsaw, it's since I bought it, I wasn't sure if it'd be the sort of tool that I'd use heaps, but gosh, it's I've used it for all sorts of things. It's great. Carrying on with our theme of using scrap, and just going back on that slotting machine, that has all been made from scrap steel or seconds. The rolled hollow section that I used for the body was a bit of second stuff I got from a local metal supplier. It was one of the offcuts, but everything else has just been done from scrap steel. And once again, we're carrying on with that theme. All right, we're going to make this little clamp up. So I've just bandsawed it out, as I said. We'll get that cleaned up to size, and we'll give that a lick on the grinder, and we'll start getting things bolted up. Righto, the head diameter on this measures up at about 8.8mm. So we're going to use a
a 9mm drill to go down and open up the hole, and then we'll go down with one of my flat bottom 9mm drills just to get a nice seat for that socket cap screw. So we're going to go down 5mm total depth to keep those cap screws flush with the top of that. Alright, we'll get set up and we'll give that a go. Alright, I'm going to set this up on a surface grinder, give this a lick so I've got the same finish as what I've got on that bridge piece. It'll make it look a lot neater, nicer, I think. Then we'll set the bridge piece up, drill and tap into that, bolt this on, and then we'll drill through for that drill and ream for that 8mm on the split line. Alright guys, we'll just drill and tap these. I've got to get these fairly accurate as you saw. They're fairly, those M5 socket cap screws are a fairly tight fit in those holes, so I've got to get these pretty spot on. Right, let's see how this fits up. Righto, no complaints about that. That's beautiful. Alright, so we're going to set up and we're going to drill and ream through 8mm to be able to fit that little digital indicator into place. Alright, we'll get back to the mill and we'll get that one organised. Righto guys, we'll start to drill and ream on this split line to be able to mount that little digi dial indicator into place. I'm going to be using the collet set for this. Particularly when you're reaming, you'll find the drill will always be a few thou out, and that will come out in a larger hole than what you expect when you do ream. I've done this before on big site installations with dowels, and that we use a magnetic base drill, and if the slides aren't spot on, well, I've never had success in actually drilling with a magnetic drill and then reaming with a magnetic drill. I've always had to go and get the dowel pins chromed to thicken them up on the OD. So you try and take out as much of the slop as you possibly can, and the best way I can do that is to use the collet sets. Right, I'm drilling with a letter N drill, which is about 12 thou shy of 8mm. So here we go. Alright, let's see how we go. Oh yeah, that's a nice snug fit. That will be a snug fit. That'll be ideal. So we'll just have a little bit of clamping pressure on that. Alright.
Excellent. Righto. Well, we'll get that out. We'll get that deburred, and we'll have a look at making up a finger to mount that stylus onto. All right, guys. I've taken about 1.5 thou off that face, and we'll see how that's going to look and if that's going to nip up for us. Oh yeah, that's got it. That's nice. And the stylus moves up and down quite nicely as well. So, no, very happy with that fit up. That's worked out really well. I must admit, I'm not a fan of digital indicators on the lathe, particularly when you're setting stock up at a forge or chuck. It's nice to be able to see that needle coming up and down to 0. A little bit like in the 80s when car companies bought out those stupid digital speedos. A lot of people were overshooting the mark. It's nice and easy to see a needle coming up to a set point rather than trying to look at a number coming up. I guess our brains in some cases like to work in the old analog system. In this particular application where I'm using this for a height adjust, similar to what I've got on my surface gauge, this is ideal. So I can see where the negatives, I can see where the positive, and it's a direct reading. So the digital indicator will come up really nice for that. We have to look at I guess a finger arrangement that's going to work on that stylus next. And as I said, I want to make that adjustable to move up and down. With the ram, we'll keep it within the range of the indicator anyway. You never know what sort of a job you're going to do on these things, and sometimes it's nice to have the full stroke available for reading. So we'll have a bit of a think about how I'm going to do that. I'll sketch something up, and we'll come back and make a start on that one. Right, guys, we'll see you in a tick. Right, guys, we've got to come up with an arrangement for this little finger that we're going to use to mount the stylus on to give us our reading. So this is what I've come up with very, very quickly just on the CAD. We've got our digital dial indicator mounted, and the finger is also mounted in the slide plate of the slotter. I've slotted these holes that enable us to move this all the way up when we drop the ram further down. If we're going to do some big side cutting or anything unusual, 9 times out of 10 it's just going to sit where it is. And I've got 25mm of stroke in the stylus, so we've got that full stroke availability here. We can move the digital indicator up a little bit further into the clamp and increase the range on the up way. So that's what we're going to be making up, and I've done some quick details. And it's fairly straightforward. So I've just got a bit of scrap 50mm by 50mm by 6mm flat, which is what we're going to use. I'm going to pre-cut the slots into it before we do any of the shaping out of here. I'll machine up 2 sides to give us our finish that we're after. Then we'll mark it out, do our slots, and we'll set up in the bandsaw, do our aperture cutouts, and then we'll come back in the mill and then do the final mill outs. So it's fairly straightforward. And then just to keep it in the same appearance as the rest of the slotter, I'll just put that onto the surface grinder. We'll just give that a quick lick just to bring the finish up. And in the slide plate, we've just got a couple of M5 holes that we're going to drill and tap, so I've got to get this assembly pulled apart. So we'll make a start on that. So that's our stock. I'll just cut that up in the bandsaw. As I said, we'll mill up 3 sides. We'll do our slots and then we'll cut the shape. All right, guys, we'll see you back on the milling machine. What?
Righto, so we've got our slots cut in our plate. So I've just marked out with a bit of fat on there, the shape that we need to have for this finger. So we'll just set that up in the bandsaw and we'll cut them out, and then we'll come back to the milling machine and just finish those off, and we're done with that, apart from putting it on the surface grinder and giving it a bit of a lick. Alright guys, we'll get that quickly cut out now. Alright guys, so we've got that all roughed out. I'll tell you what, this bandsaw is very quickly turning into my second favourite machine. My favourite machine being my horizontal bandsaw, but this vertical one, you know, just makes light work of this sort of stuff. You know, 2 minutes and that's all fully roughed out, ready to clean up on the mill. Alright, let's get it mounted up in the vise, and we'll get that licked up and finished. Righto, so I've drilled and tapped, and I fitted up our little finger, and yeah, it fits up beautifully. So it's going to do the job nicely for us with the digital indicator. We can mount that wherever you want it to go. All right, we'll get this all reassembled, and we'll see how it looks in action. Alright guys, that's the job done. We've got the digital indicator mounted all up with its little finger. We can adjust that up and down. As you can see, we get a direct reading, so we can get some very, very accurate side cutting by using that indicator. And using the smaller keyway cutters, we can open those keyways up very, very accurately. So we've got our finger mounted in place as well, working on that stylus. So as I said, as we bring that whole RAM assembly down, we can adjust that up to keep it within the range of that indicator. So very, very happy with the way that has come up.